It was, where am I going to sleep? What am I going to eat? Where am I going to take a shower? I forgot what it was like to be a human being.
I would never choose to be homeless. It's very frightening to become homeless. You feel vulnerable, like something bad could happen to you, besides being as if homelessness wasn't enough.
I think the most difficult part about being homeless is the loneliness.
There's a point where drugs and alcohol aren't fun anymore, and that was a long time ago, and I just became miserable and really didn't want to live anymore.
We developed a homeless outreach program. They provide homeless people the different resources that are all around Napa, whether it's providing them information how to get into Health and Human Services mental health, whether it's how to get into the Hope Center. We provide case management.
It's frustrating if you don't know where you can go and what you can do. The different things that are available, finding those out, sometimes it's difficult.
When we're coming from being homeless, there's a lot of fear. You know, we're overwhelmed by it. That's why we keep doing what we're doing.
People get most frustrated about is the antisocial behavior. Homelessness is not a crime.
I think there's a lot of prejudiceness, so to speak. If you say you're homeless, you're associated automatically with the people that are, as you say, chronic homeless. The people that choose to live out on the street, either because they're not able to really know any better to get away because of mental health issues or whatever. Judgmental, minds. It really stings.
90% of the folks that are homeless in Napa are Napans. That is so different from what you would find in San Francisco or Oakland. They are not transients. They were born and bred here. They went to local elementary schools in Napa and Vintage High. And that means that this is their home. And so when folks think about them being transient and they should go back to where they came from here.
Solving homelessness anywhere is housing people. You get people housing, you give them supportive services that they need to be able to stay in housing, and you can solve homelessness. And solving homelessness in Napa is either as simple or as complicated as that. It really comes down to figuring out how to move people through the system from homelessness into housing, how to catch them at the front end to keep them from becoming homeless, and when they do become homeless, to get them out of homelessness as quickly as we can.
2 years ago, when the housing market was different, and we had resources coming in to help subsidize people, we found that they were very successful in a short amount of time of moving out of that emergency shelter situation and into independent living situations where they could support themselves. But now the climate has changed, and we find that because of the housing market and because of the lack of resources, we're not doing that as well as we were doing that before. We're still doing it, but it's much more difficult and it takes more time.
The idea of developing enough affordable housing in the community to house everybody who's homeless is a daunting task. But it's one that I think that if we focus on and we focus our resources intelligently, focus them correctly, it's something that we can make a huge difference in.
In this county, we need to provide housing.
Mental health, housing, work. It's a tall order.
I would call myself a functioning addict. I worked and had a home, and then it just became too deep with my addictions, and I ended up living in people's backyards and little outbuildings and stuff like that for pretty much 10 years.
It's interesting, too, about what creates homelessness and what we're discovering. The National Alliance for Homelessness in Washington, D.C. has done tons of studies. We have lots and lots of data, even here in Napa, about our folks. And what they're finding out is that what creates the barrier and homelessness for many folks is their childhood experiences, their adverse childhood experiences.
One thing that I know that if I had addressed many years ago, and I don't believe that is addressed enough, especially with women. I mean, just because it's more common among women to have been sexually abused, either in their childhood or as an adult. And one thing that I've come to terms with since I've been here is that's really been the basis for everything in my life from the time I was 7 years old on. And I had dealt with it, I thought. And it wasn't until recently that I'm seeing the patterns in my life, the low self-esteem. And I wish that there were more services, both through mental health and other agencies, for women to deal with that.
So this place and the HHS program, it saved my life. And now I'm back working clean and sober, and it's great. I have an apartment now. I have a vehicle. Pretty much, like my sister just texted me today and asked me if I wanted to come for Thanksgiving. So, and I haven't been to a family function in probably 15 years.
The county and the city, working together with the nonprofit community, are starting to take a comprehensive look at the way we deliver services and trying to see if what we're doing is really affecting, making the changes that we need to make to affect the problem that we've got in front of us. And the work coming up over the next year or so will help us to take a look at the delivery system. How do we get services to people? What are the services and where are the people going? In ways that help us to make the most of the money that we put into the system and generate better outcomes, get more people out of homelessness, and help people to address their underlying issues.
We have a lot of good resources, and it's nice to know that people are working on more to help other people. I happen to be open-minded and willing. I wasn't always that way, but I think sometimes pride turns into pridefulness, where I think I'm proud, but what am I proud of? I need to make some changes. I need to be proud of making some changes, and I am proud of making changes. I have done that. So I've got 6 months clean and no relapses, and I'm managed to land a good job.
So part of it too is being able to help people to earn enough money to be able to support themselves. So issues like economic self-sufficiency become a very important factor, and also race, immigration. There's so many different intersections to this issue.
Everything is, as I call it, hurry up and wait. And it's so frustrating, and it's real hard to fight depression when everything is so up in the air. You don't know what's going to happen next.
It breaks my heart because a lot of them are able to be rehabilitated, but they don't have anybody that holds their hand and tells them they're worth being rehabilitated.
When I see homelessness in this community, I see a hugely complex problem. I see people that are in dire need of help. I see people that are struggling, trying really hard to change their own lives, trying really hard to get out of the holes that they're in. I see a community that desperately wants to engage around it and is looking for positive ways to make an impact on it. I see a complicated problem that takes a community to address.